Okay, we are live here, I think. So we were reviewing the basic HTML. Let's see if I'm live. Let me just check as Modius X3. Modius X3. Hello, 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 hello. Okay. So we are live now. So yeah, we were reviewing the basic HTML. So let's not waste time and let's start again. So HTML basics. So what is the role of HTML? Basically HTML represents the content and structure of a web page, how it will look and how all the elements of the web page are situated and where they are situated. So it all depends on the HTML of that page. HTML elements. Elements are building blocks of an HTML document. They represent headings, paragraphs, links, images, and more. Most HTML element consist of the opening and closing tags. So we can define an element of HTML using the opening and closing tags. So this is the basic syntax. For example, there are some void elements also. Void elements are those elements which we don't have to end those elements with a closing tag. For example, image and meta are both void elements. We don't have to close it. We can also close it, but it's not necessary. So now we define attributes. Attributes are basically is a value placed inside the opening tag of HTML element. So inside the HTML element's opening tag, we can place an attribute and its value. So what it does, it basically specifies how the element should behave, or it basically gives a specific property to the element. So basically, for example, a boolean attribute can either be present or absent in a HTML tag. If present, the value is true, otherwise it is false. For example, disabled, random, read only, and required. These three are the boolean attributes. So we can include these inside the opening tag of our HTML element, or we don't have to. So comments are basically notes for yourself or the other developers in your code. We can also define how the code works, or if we wanted to add something but we forgot to add, or we want to report that if we run this code, it throws some kind of error or it has some bugs. So we can basically define these inside our comments. It basically makes our code more readable. So that is it. Now let's see common HTML elements. So common HTML elements, there are heading elements. Heading elements means these elements have h1 to x6. So basically what they do is, they are basically the heading elements, which signifies the importance of the content below them. The lower the number, the higher the importance. H2 element have less importance, H1 element than H2 elements. So basically the lower the number, so here H1 is the highest important basically so lower the number of the header, the higher will be its importance, and the text inside the H1 element will also look bigger than the text inside H2 element, and so on. So there is also a paragraph element. We can add a paragraph as it as it basically says that this is a paragraph element. We can add any paragraph inside this paragraph element. It starts with a opening tag, start with basically p and ends with a slash p. Now let's talk about the image element. What is image element? So image element basically is used to add images on a web page. The source attribute is used to specify location for that image. For example, for image elements, it's good to practice to include another attribute called alt attribute, for example. So basically, if we have an image tag, we can include a source here. So basically what this source does is it basically clarifies or gives the location from where we are taking this image. This is the location of that image, yeah, and we can see that this is actually the what we say, there were two types of we can define in the location of the element for in two types. So there was one reference referencing reference tag, I think, and there was one another one which is the hard coded one which we use. So this is basically the full addressing, or I don't I'm forgetting the name, but we will soon review it. So let's talk about the alt. Alt basically stands for alternate. Alternate means if this image doesn't load on our web page, then this text will be shown in place of that image. Body element. So for body element, what it does is basically whatever we want to show inside our web page, we include it inside the body element. So this is the opening of the body, and inside it there is a h1 header and a paragraph. So if we run the code here, and so this will throw an error because it doesn't have the HTML and head sections, so it is incomplete. If we complete the code and run, then inside our web page, cat photo will appear on the top as a bold text, and after that the paragraph, this is a paragraph element, will be shown, which will be a smaller sized, which will look basically it will look smaller in compared to cat photo app text. Selection element. This element is used to divide the content into smaller sections. So if we want to divide our code in sections, we use the selection element. For example, this is not selection, this is section. So section here, section opens here, and we are including h2 and paragraph. So these two are basically inside our section. So this defines a section. This defines a section. Now let's talk about div element. Okay. So div element is a generic HTML element, does not hold any semantic meaning. It is used as a generic container to hold HTML elements. Div, basically we use div as to create boxes or to divide the code in, like if you want to style it. Basically div is very useful when we are applying CSS, custom CSS, or we are trying to make buttons, we are trying to make frames. This is very useful. Like we divided, this is a division, div means division. So this is a division, it has a h1 tag as a paragraph, similar to section. Now let's talk about anchor element. These elements are used to apply links to a web page. The href attribute is used to specify where the link should go, where the users click on it. What it does is basically, if you want to add let's say a photo, okay, then what we do is, or let's say we want to add a photo. So uh, sorry, not a photo. If we want to basically add a link to our web page, and when we press on that link, it will redirect us to another page. The link can be a photo also. So if a photo, we click on that photo, it basically it redirects us to another web page. So anchor element basically does that. So this is the opening of an anchor element, and this is basically href, which means the reference. HTTPS hypertext transfer protocol secure method. Secure means this is a secure method, which means it is more secure than HTTP, which we study in networking. And CDN here, free code camp, curriculum, cat photo, running cats.jpg, cute cats. So if we click on cute cats, which text, it will redirect us to this page. Okay, now unordered and ordered lists. There are two types of lists, unordered list and ordered list. Unordered list, basically we use unordered list when we want to a list with no indentation in front of the list items. We don't want any numbers here, so we want dots here, so we use lists, which is unordered list. If we want numbers, we use unordered list, ordered list. And emphasis, basically what emphasis does is basically it tilts the text, it converts the text to italic text. So here inside the paragraph, emphasis on love will be shown in tilted mode, or we can say the font will change into tilted font. Similarly, the strong importance element, the strong will convert the text into a bold text, so importance here will be shown in bold. Figure and figure caption element, if we want to add an image and we want to add the caption to that image, we can use the figure and figure caption. So figure, here we included an image element and we gave the source. This is the source where we can find the image, and then if we want to add a caption to that image, then we can use the fig caption. What is main element and footer? Main basically represents the main content of the web page, and the content inside the main element can't be repeated on other places. Footer element, basically this is at the bottom of the HTML document, and it basically contains the copyright information and other important page links. Now let's talk about, here is the example of footer element. Now let's talk about the identifiers and grouping. What is identifiers and grouping? IDs. Unique element identifiers for HTML IDs name should be used as per one's document. So H1 ID title movie review page. What does ID do? ID basically is a unique identifier of HTML. Basically, if this H1 element, we want to target this H1 element and add CSS here, some kind of styling, for which will target only this H1. A web page can have multiple H1s. If we want a single H1 to be targeted by the CSS, we can use ID. ID title means if we add some CSS to this ID title, and then we can target this H1 element. Similarly, we can use ID on like divs, we can use ID on any elements also, we can use it in divs also. Classes are basically for group elements or for styling them in behavior. For example, if you want all the divs, to like take some properties of CSS, we can use box. So this class box here, basically if we define like some CSS property to this class. This will be applied to this div, and for this div, this is also a div, this is also a div, this is also a div. There are three divs. What is the difference here? This difference here is it has a class and it has a child class also. The second div has a child class, the third div has a different child class. So basically the parent class properties will be applied to all three divs, and the child class properties will be applied to this div only, and blue blocks child class property will be applied to this div only, third div. So basically we can, this will what is the use of this? So we can use the same code again and again. The reusability of the code is increased when you use classes. Special characters in linking. Now this is very important. If you want to use like an HTML element maybe inside our paragraph, but the HTML actually will give error if we use like image tag here, because it will give syntax error. So but if we want to use it, we can use %lt for less than and %gt for greater than. So this will actually describe the HTML that we want to just show this tag inside our paragraph element. We don't want to use this element here, we just want to show it. Now link element. Link element. This element is used to link external sources like CSS, site icons, and site icons here are the basic syntax of link. So if you want to link like a custom CSS style, if you want to link CSS page, style sheets, we can use link element to our HTML element. This is basically defined before ending the head section. So inside the head, this will be written. The rel attribute here is to specify the relationship between the linked resource and the HTML document. So here it specifies that this is a style sheet. The relationship between the HTML and this document is a style sheet of HTML. The href attribute is used to specify the location and URL of external resource. So here href is basically hypertext reference, and this reference is basically the attribute. This attribute is used to specify the location of the URL, external resource. So we already knew that if we add a full stop here, full stop before slash, ahead of slash, it means it will lead us to the current directory. So we go to the correct directory and then we can access this style.css from there, because it is inside the current directory. That is it. Now let's talk about the script element. If we want to add the JavaScript to our HTML, we use script. A script is basically added like this, like script. This is the inline script. Inline means we can write the script inside our HTML. This is cumbersome, so we can add a file. We can write our script in a different file and attach that file before ending our body section, and this is how we attach it. So script, source, path of the script, and then we close the script. The src attribute is used here to specify the location of the external JavaScript file. Now let's talk about the boilerplate and encoding. The boilerplate is basically the basic structure, essential elements of every HTML document needed. So these are the essential structure, the basic structure of every HTML document. So first of all, we use the doc type HTML, then we use HTML lang equals to en. This is not needed, but this is considered a good practice. Then we define head, then we inside our head we define our character set, then we define our title, then we link our CSS here before closing our head, then opening our body. Before closing our body, we also attach our JavaScript, this This is how we attach our JavaScript from external. If it is if it is residing outside our file before ending the body. Inside our body, we write our HTML, what we want to show on the screen. Then we'll close our HTML. So these are all essential HTML structures and essential elements. So we can basically read this. This is very important. So doc type, this is used to tell the browser which version of HTML we are using. HTML element, this represents the top level of elements or the root of an HTML document. To specify the language for the document, you should use the lang attribute. Head element, the head section contains important metadata which behind the scene information is needed for browser to and search engines. Meta element, this element represents the site's metadata. These elements have details about things like character encoding and how website like Twitter should preview your page's link and more. Title element, this element is used to set the text that appears in the browser tab or window like this. We can see here, this is the title of this web page. UTF-8 character encoding, UTF-8 or UCS transformation format. 8 is a standardized character encoding widely used on web. Character encoding is the method computers use to store characters as data. The character set attribute is used inside a meta element to set the character encoding to UTF-8. SEO and social sharing. SEO, search engine optimization, is a practice that optimizes web pages so that they become more visible and rank higher in our search engines. Meta description element. This is used to provide a short description for the web page and impacting SEO. So this is really important. SEO basically means that how our web page ranks if someone searches about the same topic and we are delivering the same content, and there are multiple sources where user can get the information. But if we want to our web page to rank higher in the search list, we can optimize it with the help of SEO. The meta description element here is used to provide a short description of our web page, impacting the SEO. The better the description provided, the better the SEO will be. For here, we can use the description element like this. So meta, name is equals to description, and content equals to discover expert tips and techniques for grading in small spaces, choosing the right plants and maintaining thriving garden. So if you want this web page to like share content on how to maintain our garden, this is how we write the description for SEO optimization. Open graph tags. What are open graph tags? The open graph protocol enables you to control how your website content appear across the various social media platforms such as Facebook, LinkedIn, and many more. By setting these open graph properties, you can entice users to want to click and engage with your content. You can set these properties through a collection of meta elements inside your head section. For example, here entice means you can basically, what can I say? Basically force users, not force, मतलब basically attract कर सकते हैं. We can attract users to do something. Yeah, we can attract users to click on our web page and engage with our content by using the open graph tags. For example, OG title property. This is used to set the title that displays for social media post. If we want to post something on social media, we use this in our HTML document. Meta content is equal to this. This is the title for that post, and this is the property of the HTML this is the HTML property. So this will tell basically social media that this post has this is the this is the title. Otherwise, it may happen that the social media platform does not understand what is the title and what is this. So this is basically tells that this is the title of the post. OG type, open graph type property. The type property is used to represent the graph of content being shared on the social media. Example for this content includes articles, website, video, or music. Okay. So if you want to add like articles, website, video, or music to uh, our post, then we can include OG type, and in description we can add like OG type basically like this. For example, here the property is OG type and we want to add a website. So this is a website, content is website. So to add image and to add image here we can use this property meta. Then content is this is the location of the image, and this is basically the property OG image, open graph image. OG URL, if you want to add a URL, this is the property OG URL, and content is basically the URL. Media elements and optimization. Replaced elements. A replaced element is an element whose content is determined by an external resource rather than a CSS itself. For an example will be iframe element. Iframe stands for inline frame. It is inline element used to embed HTML content directly within the HTML page. For example, this is the iframe, the source is this, and the title is this. So basically, if we click on this, it will lead us to this site. So this is a replaced element. So this content here is replaced with this site. Now you can allow full screen attribute, which allows the users to display the iframe in the full screen mode. So for example, in our iframe tag, I see there in the source there is a video URL. So this video will be embedded here. This is the width of the video and this is the height of the video. So here we allowed the full screen. So if you click here, the video will be played in the full screen of the web page. To embed a video within iframe, you can copy it directly from a popular service like YouTube, Vimeo, or we can define it yourself with source attribute pointing to URL of that video. There is example of the embedding popular course of YouTube. Okay? Within iframe, we can add a source attribute, and inside the source attribute, we can add a URL here. Okay. So now here, for example, this is the complete code. So here this is the header, free code camp YouTube video embedded within the iframe element. So here the iframe here, this is used to embed basically the video to the YouTube from the YouTube. How we do that? So we first signify the width and the height of the video. This is the source from where we have taken the video. So for example, we have taken the video from the YouTube and we embedded it with the help of this embed. For example, if we like copy the share link of any video from the YouTube, it will show us www.youtube. Here the full stop will be here, but we have to remove the full stop from here and add here and add a .com here, and then we slash and embed this video. Now this video will be embedded to our website, and then this is the title of the video. And here what is we allowed some basically properties to that video like accelerometer, so we can accelerate the video, we can make it go we can make it play faster. This is autoplay, so basically after another video is played, or we can replay that video. This is the clipboard write, I don't know what it does. Encrypted media. So how the video is encrypted here. It can share the details like that. This is the gyroscope. Gyroscope basically is used to share information on the video, like how video is going to perform when we rotate our phone. The gyroscope will help us to basically, when we use our phone, like uh, we can say uh, like a device. uh, I don't know, let's see how this property is used. Picture in picture means basically we can see the video in a pop-up screen, and web share, basically we can share that video also. Now this is a refer policy. What is a refer policy? Refer policy basically, this basically tells that there is a strict policy in this video, that this video can't be used copyrighted. This video has a copyright or not, this will tell this video. Allow full screen basically means that we allowed full screen of that video. So if we click on the video, if we open the video, icon will be shown, and if you click on that icon, the video will be played on full screen in that browser. Now we close the iframe. Here there are some other replaced elements such as video embed elements behave as replaced element under specific circumstances. For example, input element with a type, attribute and image. So we already learned about the replaced elements. So replaced element means the content in this is basically replaced with the another content. For example, here video, embed, input, type and image are all replaced elements. Now for example, here input element, type, attribute, image. Here input type is image, descriptive text goes here, source is this. Okay. Okay, so this is basically used when we, like, if you want to download a video. So the thumbnail is basically this input type image. So when we are downloading the video, the thumbnail will appear of that video. So if you want to add a thumbnail to that video, we use input type image, and this is the descriptive text, and this is the example of that URL. So basically this is a link of that thumbnail. Optimizing media. There are 3 tools to consider when we are using media, such as images on web pages, the size of the format and the compression. A compression algorithm is used to reduce the size of the file and data. Okay. So basically we can compress the size of our image or video using media optimization. Image formats. 2 of the most common formats are PNG and JPG, but they are no longer the most ideal formats for serving image. Unless you need support for older browsers, you should consider more optimized format like WebP and AVIF. Yeah, because if we scale the PNG and JPG, it basically corrupts the image or basically degrades the quality of the image. So this is not basically good practice to include these files inside our browser. Image license. An image under public domain has no copyright attached to it, so it is free to be used without any restriction. Image license specifies under the Creative Commons 0 license and considered public domain. Some images might be released under a permissive license like Creative Commons license and BST license that FreeCodeCamp uses. Yeah, we already learned about all the licenses here. So there are some licenses which basically tells that you can't use this image anywhere besides where it has been used, or there are some licenses which have some specific restrictions that you can use this image anywhere, but you have to give credit to that image. Or there are some other type of restriction that you can't earn money using that image. There is also a zero license, common zero license. This means basically you can use this image anywhere. You can earn money with that image, whatever you want to do. What is SVG? SVG is basically scalable vector graphics. Track data, decide on path and equations to plot points. Basically, it basically stores the lines, curves and point in the image, so that if we scale this image bigger, the image will not be the quality of the image does not degrade. So basically SVG is used for like this free code camp icon we are seeing here. This is a SVG image. The browser icon here is an SVG image. The menu is SVG image. All these uh, icons here are basically SVGs. Yeah, this is here. It says that it really means that the vector graphics like SVG can be scaled to any size without impacting the quality of the image. Media integration, audio and video elements. The audio video elements allow you to add sound and video content to your HTML document. The audio element supports the popular audio format like MP3, WAV and OGG. The video element supports the MP4, OGG and WAV format. So there are basically three kinds of audio and three kinds of video types. For example, MP3, WAV, WAV and OGG. Three types of audio and three types of video. The WebP format, WebM format, sorry. Okay. For example, here is how we can add a video inside our HTML. Audio inside our HTML. So this is the audio tag. This is the source of the audio, the file location where the audio exists in our system, and this is how we close it. Okay, we can also add controls here. So if we want like to add like a pausing button, or we want to add like a skipping button that we can skip the audio from like, so we can add controls here. For example, in the controls attribute, we enables user to manage audio playback, including adjusting volume, pausing or resuming playback. The controls attribute is a Boolean attribute that can be added to an element to enable built-in playback controls. So what our voice trying to say is we can play back that audio. If omitted, no controls will be shown. So basically this is a Boolean attribute. Boolean attribute means we can add these controls or we don't have to add this control. This all depends on us. We don't have to actually add these. For example, here a loop attribute is we can also add a loop attribute. Loop attribute, when we enable the loop attribute, basically it loops the audio infinite times. So basically that audio will never be stopped. It basically loops. After it ends, it starts again. So this is the audio tag. So we here included audio inside the HTML. This is the source of that HTML where it exists. This is the loop button. So here if we press the loop, it basically loops the audio, and there are some controls here. So if we add these controls, it basically adds all the playback controls and pause controls inside by default. And if we want the audio to be muted first, start muted, then we can add this muted. So if we basically start the audio, it is firstly muted, then we have to unmute it by ourselves. So here it is defined that the source element, when it comes to audio files types, there are differences in which browser supports which type. To accommodate this, you can use source element inside the audio element, and the browser will select the first source that it understands. Here's an example of multiple source elements for an audio element. Okay. So basically, if we want to add audio to our HTML and we don't know if the browser supports which type of audio we can include it in various formats. So whatever type the browser understands, it will select from that type. Okay, so we are back. Okay, same goes for the video. Inside the video, as we can see, there is a source here. So this is basically specifies from where we are embedding the video. There is a loop button. There are controls to play back the video, to stop the video. There are also muted button, and this is the poster attribute actually. So I was actually wrong about the image here. This is the image. So this does not does what I said it do. So this is the poster actually. This is what adds the thumbnail to the video. So if you want to display an image while the video is downloading, you can use a poster attribute. This attribute is not available for audio elements. This is unique to video element. Of course, because audio do not have any thumbnails, it's obvious. So like this is the poster. So it is in JPG format here. And if we download this video, then this poster and this width is shown in the playback screen basically. Okay. Sorry for that. My throat is killing me. Target attribute types. Target attribute is attribute tells the browser where to open the URL. For anchor element, there are 4 important possible values for this attribute: self, blank, parent, top. There is a 5th value called unreferenced top, which is currently used for experimental fenced frame API. You probably won't have a reason to use this one yet. So target attribute basically tell us where to open our URL in the if we click on that link on the web page. So for example, if we used let's look at this code first. This is visit free code camp. This text is basically a link. We added an anchor tag and a link reference here, and this is self. Target equals self. What it does here, this attribute does here, If we click on this visit free code cam link, it will open this link in the correct reference browser, so that this tab will be replaced with this website. If we want another tab, if we want to open this link with another tab and we want this tab to remain opened, we can use a slash blank attribute. Now, if you want, now this is a bit tricky. This opens the link in the parent of the current context. For example, if your website has an iframe, a parent value in that iframe would open in your website's window tab, does not embed, not in the embedded frame. Okay. So this basically opens the site in the parent context, parent of the current context. For example, if this link is inside, let's say, a child of the like inside our iframe, this is the HTML element, and this is, let's say, this is child of the whole page. Whole page is the parent of this child, and the link is inside the child. So if we click the link, the link will be opened in the parent. So parent is the whole page, so the whole page is replaced with this link. That's how it works. Top value, this opens the link in the topmost browsing context. Think the parent of the parent. This is similar to the parent, but this link will always open in the full browser tab, even if the nested embedded frames. If we embed multiple frames like like this link here, iframe, and we have another iframe inside this iframe and another iframe, we basically nested this, but we want to open this site inside the current page, so we can use slash top also. So if we use this, the current site will be replaced with our site, this link. Now we are almost done. Absolute and relative paths. Path definition. A path is a string that specifies the location of a file or directory in a file system. In web development, paths let developers link to resources like images, style sheets, scripts, and other web pages. Path syntax. There are three key syntax to know. First is slash, which can be a backslash or forward slash depending on your operating system. The second is the single dot, and finally we have the double dot. The slash is known as the path separator. It is used to indicate a break in the text between the folder and the file name. A single dot represents the correct directory, two dots represent the parent directory. We know about all this. Absolute path. So this was the word I was looking for. I forgot this word. So if we read this sentence, so it says that an absolute path is a complete link to a resource. It starts from the root directory, includes every other directory, and finally the file name and extension. The root directory refers to the top level directory or folder in a hierarchy. An absolute path also includes the protocol, which could be HTTP, HTTPS, or a file, and domain name if the resource on the web page. Here is an example of the absolute path link, so the FreeFootCamp logo. So absolute path, why we use absolute path? So if we want to describe the external, if you want to add an external file to our HTML document, we have to use the absolute path. But if we want to add uh, let's say if we want to add a file which is inside our system to the our web page, then we can use the reference method. Okay, here's the relative path. Then we can use relative path like this. This is a relative path and this is absolute path. As we can see in the absolute path, this is described that this is we are actually referencing to an external image which is a SVG, and this image is basically located at the freecodecam.org. Inside freecodecam.org there is an image folder, and inside the image folder there is this image. So because this is inside another website, so we have to use the absolute path. But if the file is inside our system, then we can use the relative path. The relative path basically shortens the it is basically easy to access. We can use the shorthand methods like // if we want to access our current directory, so we can use // if we want to access the parent directory, we can use //. Now lastly, link states. Link is the default state. This state represents a link which is user has not visited, clicked or interacted with yet. You can think this as a state providing the base styles for all the links of your page. In other words, states built top of it. So basically, if we included a link in our HTML, then this is the default style of that link. If we have not interacted, if we have not hovered our mouse over that link, and that link is just there inside our HTML document, then this is the default style of that link. If we have already visited that link, then this style will be applied. We can also customize the styles using CSS. For example, if we have visited that link will shown in green color, for example, and if we hover over that link, then that link will be shown in red or something like that. It glows a little bit more or just change colors. This is focus. Focus basically is the state where we apply the focus on that link. So if we want someone to focus on link, then we can add a border here which will be shown like the border, like the light bulb we have seen in Diwali, like it just glows and just stops, then it glows. So something like that. It is basically a border which covers the link so that attention goes to that link. Then lastly, this is a active. Active means at this state when we click on that link, when we click on that link, this state will be active. This is the CSS style that will be applied to that link. So for example, if we click on some links, it will convert its color from blue to red, or it just convert its color to blue to purple or something like that. So this is when the link is active. So we have reviewed all the concepts. So we are gonna just click on this and submit. We have completed the basic HTML review here. Now we are going to enter the next challenge, which is basically the exam of the quiz here. Now let's take the quiz. If we have already done everything well, so now we can take the quiz. Let's take the quiz. Which of the following target attributes open the link in a parent of the current context? So if we want to open the link in the parent of the current context, obviously we use parent because we want to open the link in the parent of the current context. Which attribute is used to set UTF-8 character encoding HTML? So basically character set is the answer. We already saw that. What is the role of HTML on the web? HTML represents the context and structure of the web page. This is the correct answer. Which image license work for public domain? Public domain. Public domain. Creative Commons zeros, I think. This is the common. This is the license, I think. Okay. JPG is not the answer. BST, I don't know. And from this and this, I think this is the correct answer. How do you set a boolean attribute to false? By setting the attribute empty string, by not using the not operator, by omitting the attribute from the HTML element is the correct answer. We can use the attribute inside our HTML element or not. So if we don't use it, it basically is false in false state, and if we use it inside our HTML element, it is in true state. What is the script element is used for? It is used to embed JavaScript into HTML or external. Yeah, this is the correct answer. Which of the following element is used to set the title of the HTML document? Title. What is the class attribute typically used for? It is used to apply set of styles to multiple elements is the correct answer. Which of the following is not an example of a commonly used HTML entity? What? Not an example of commonly used entity. Commonly used. Greater than symbol is commonly used. Div is commonly used. Double quote. Copyright symbol. Do we use double quotes here in the HTML entity? Or copyright symbol? I think double quotes is the answer. I don't know. Which element is used to add audio? Basically audio. Where is the content represented on the page placed in the document? Within the element, within the body element, within the script element, between the head and the body element. Where is the content represent on the page placed in the, where is the content represent on the, within the body element, of course. Which attribute is used to start audio again once it finishes? Loop element. Which of the following is the correct syntax for div element? This is the correct syntax. How does target self work? Target self. It basically opens the link in the current browsing context. No, this all the answers are wrong. What is a relative path? It always begins with a forward slash indicating the root directory of the website of the file. Relative path, it includes the full URL. No, this is the wrong answer. It's the exact location of the, no, this is also the, this is the location of the directory relative to the current working directory. True, this is the correct answer. Which of the following element is the correct syntax for a link element? Link element, okay. Link rel style sheet href. No, this is wrong. This is also wrong. So here and here, let me see the spellings here. Href link. We have to close the link, I think. So this is the correct answer. Which of the following is not a valid value for working with opening graph properties? OG social media is not a valid value. Which of the following is the correct syntax for the paragraph element? This is the correct answer. What does the name of iframe element stand from? Inline video, inline frame is the correct answer. Inline framing or inline frame? Inline frame, I think. What does the active state means for anchor element? Active state means for anchor element. Okay. A user is actively clicking on it is the correct answer. Finish the quiz. I am finished. Oh, everything is good. You have 80 out of, okay, so two of them were incorrect. Let me check which were incorrect. Hmm. Oh, it is just, oh, it refreshes the questions. So the questions are not hard coded, so they are basically generated randomly. So yes, I want to leave the quiz. So there were two wrong answers, but I didn't know which one of them were wrong. We can take the quiz again also if you want that. To pass the quiz, you must correctly. Oh, no, no, no. Also, all were wrong. All were right. So it was just saying that to pass the quiz, you have to answer 18 of them correctly out of 20 questions. We can also we can also take the quiz again if you want to. Let's take the quiz again. How does the loop attribute works inside the audio element? It allows the audio element to synchronize. So we are to loop element now. So if we want to play the audio again and again after it finished, so it starts the audio again once it finished the correct answer. What is word element in HTML? Element used for embedding no ever without any content and tag end tag. Yeah. Sorry, this is the correct answer. Which of the following is a correct value for ID attribute? Hmm. So if we want to use ID, we can't use spaces, squiggly lines, or at the rates between them. So we have to use a dash here, or we can use a dash or a backslash. Sorry, not backslash, underscore. How does target parent work? It opens the link in the. It's by the position of the link. No. It opens the link in the parent of the. This is the correct answer. What is the difference between Boolean and regular? Boolean attribute can only be used in a checkbox. No, a Boolean. Regular attribute are always required. A Boolean attribute are optional. This is the correct answer. Which element is used to link script element? What is boilerplate? A template includes all the essential information needed for a HTML document. What is which attribute applies the unique identifier to HTML? Unique identifier ID. What is the HTML entity? Character reference. Character reference. A set of character used to represent the reserved. Yeah, this is actually the correct answer. What is the purpose of allure? It's used to add audio in HTML document. No. Which of the following is not an example of HTML? Byte. What is the role of target attribute inside the anchor? It determines the font size of the anchor. What is the role of the target attribute inside the anchor element? It determines the font size of the anchor. No, link element. Target attribute. Hmm. Oh, so it basically tells the where to open the link here. So it determines the font size. No. It specifies the position where the link document should know. It defines that. No. It is used to specify where the link document open. Yeah, this is the answer. What is an absolute path? Path includes variable complete path to a resource starting from the root directory. Okay. What is the role of link in HTML? It is used to embed audio, video. It is used to define the layout. It is create hyperlinks. It is used to create hyperlinks within the same web page. It is used to link external resources like style sheets and site icons. True. Uh, which of the following is a valid value working with open graph properties? So, is not a valid or a valid? Is a valid. Social media is not valid. Title and open graph. This is the valid. Which of the following is an example of Boolean attribute? Checked, source, with, href. This is the Boolean attribute, no? So with is actually a Boolean attribute. We can include or not include it, maybe. Source checked. Not with, maybe. Checked is the correct answer. Which of the following is the correct syntax for img element? We don't have to close an img, I think. We can close also, but we don't have to close it. This is the correct answer. So here img source. Inside the source there is the location of the image. Then we have the alternate, and inside the alternate there is a description of the image. But here it ends the image. So we know that it can be used like this also, but I think that this is the correct one. What is iframe element used for? It is used for add caption images. It is used to add copyright. It is used to create hyperlinks. It is used to embed, yes. If we want to embed another document within our current HTML document, we use iframe. Which of the following is not a valid link state? href. What is the role of the title element? Let's finish the quiz. 100% complete. Yeah, now we have 19 of the 20 corrected. Okay, I did one wrong there, but no problem. Okay, now we can start the semantic HTML. Semantic HTML, now we are entering the territory of advanced HTML. Semantic, then we have forms and tables, then we have accessibility, then we have the HTML review again, then we start the CSS. CSS is gonna be a bit hard, but we have to go through it. Then we have the JavaScript, which is the most important of them all. Then we can start our front end. So let's not stop here. Let's start the semantic HTML, and let's start the importance of semantic HTML. Why should you care about the semantic HTML? Okay, let's start it. Let's start.
Why should you care about semantic HTML? Semantics are the meaning of words or phrases in a language. In HTML, which is a language, elements have their own semantic meaning too. In fact, you can think of your HTML document like you would a text document. And much like a text document, you might have headings, images, bold text, and other formatting. The semantic meaning of an element refers to what special information that element conveys. The semantic meaning of a P element, for example, is a paragraph of text. Most elements have semantic meaning. The div element is one of the very few that does not. But why is this important? First and foremost, using proper semantic HTML will ensure the best experience for users with assistive technology like screen readers. But also, semantic HTML can improve your search rankings. This is referred to as search engine optimization, or SEO. Finally, using correct semantic elements can improve your development experience. Rather than having to sift through a bunch of div elements to find your navigation bar, you can edit the nav element directly and know what you are changing. Throughout this section, you will learn more about these topics, how to use semantic elements, and why semantic HTML is so important.
Okay. What does semantic refers to? This meaning the structure of word phrases in the language. It basically so basically meaning of the structure of words phrases in a language is basically semantic. Which element does not have semantic meaning? Div element does not have semantic meaning. Why do you care about semantic HTML? It improves the SEO actually. It improves the accessibility, so all of them is the answer. Yeah. Let's go to the next challenge.
Why is it important to have good structural hierarchy? The most important aspect of creating a structural hierarchy is the proper use of heading elements. Heading elements are numbered as H1, H2, H3, and so on. These numbers represent the heading level for that element. Much like a text document, you do not want to use heading levels in the incorrect order. Your H1 element is your top level heading. You will rarely have more than one of these on a page, and it should typically come before all of your content. Your H2 element is your subheading. It should always come after your H1 and might come after some introductory text. Unlike an H1 element, you can have multiple H2 elements on your page. You'll often do this to delineate different sections of content. Following the pattern, your H3 element should always come after an H2 element. That is, you should never skip directly from H1 to H3. You can, however, have multiple heading elements at the same level. For example, this code is correct. But this code would not be correct because H3 comes before H2. It may be tempting to use a specific heading element because of its styling, such as H1 for large text. Instead, you should choose the appropriate element for your document structure and use CSS to achieve the styling you'd like. Using the right hierarchy is important for accessibility. Assistive technologies like screen readers rely on the structure of a web page to determine how to parse and announce that web page to the user. Using an H3 element after an H1 might cause a screen reader user to believe they have accidentally skipped over important content due to the lack of an H2 element. Proper structure is also important for SEO. Search engines use automation to parse the content of your web page and determine when and where it should show up in results. If your structure is malformed, search engines may not be able to rank you very well in the relevant search results. Finally, depending on how incorrect your structure is, your HTML may not even be technically valid. When this happens, the web browser has to effectively guess what you meant to do, and what it guesses might not even be what you want at all. As you have learned today, there are many reasons to use the proper structural hierarchy for your page. Keep this in mind as you build new projects.
Okay. Why is structural hierarchy important? All of the above for accessibility, SEO, and so other browsers know that what you mean. Which heading element must precede H3? It must precede H3. So H2 must precede H3. How should you create large text on your web page? Use H1 because it's already has a large text. Use a span element. Use correct structure and style with CSS. Yeah, if you want to use a larger text, we can use H1 because I think the H1 has the largest text inside the body. Let's check. Oh, this is not correct. So do we have to use span element? This is also incorrect. Use any element you want and style it with CSS. Use correct structural elements, I think. Okay.
What's the difference between presentational and semantic HTML? Presentational HTML focuses on the appearance and style of the content. In the early days of HTML, developers would use elements like the center, big, and font elements. But in modern web development, you shouldn't use these types of elements because of their limitations and negative impact on accessibility and maintainability. Many presentational HTML elements are deprecated, which means that they are outdated and no longer recommended. There are better ways to get the same result. However, it is helpful to know that they exist, so we'll take a look at some examples. The font element is a deprecated element used to set the font size and color of the text. Here's an example of a font element. This example sets the color of the text to blue and the size to a value of 5. The range for the size attribute is from 1 to 7, with 1 being the smallest and 7 being the largest. The default value is 3 if you don't set the value explicitly. This is what you will see in the browser. While this element still works, you should not use it because the font size and color should always be set in CSS, not in HTML. The center element is another deprecated element that is used to center the content horizontally within its container. Here's an example of the center element that contains text and a paragraph element. This is what you would see in the browser for this example. All of the content within the center element is centered horizontally. And next, we have the big element. This is another deprecated presentational HTML element that makes the enclosed text one level bigger than its surrounding text. Here we have an example that defines a paragraph with 2 parts. The first part has normal sized text, while the second part, enclosed within the big element, will be displayed in a larger font size. This is what you would see in the browser. The text within the big element looks larger compared to the surrounding text. However, remember that font size should always be set with CSS, so you should not use this element in modern HTML. These were examples of presentational HTML elements, but all of them are deprecated and no longer recommended. So what should you use instead? Let's see. Semantic HTML is now the recommended practice. It describes the content of the elements, so it's much easier to read, understand, and maintain. Search engines can easily understand your website when you use semantic HTML. It's also helpful for accessibility purposes because screen readers need semantic information to describe what's on the web page. Examples of semantic HTML elements include the header element for defining the header of the document or section, the navigation section element, nav, for sections with navigation links, the section element for grouping related information, the figure element for illustrations and diagrams. This is an example of a header element that contains a navigation section element. The semantic elements clearly show their purpose within the HTML structure. There are many different semantic HTML elements. You will definitely find one that fits the needs of your project. Great work. Now you know the difference between presentational and semantic HTML. Semantic HTML describes the content, while presentational HTML focuses on the appearance.
Okay. Which of the following is the best describe the difference between presentational and presentational HTML focus on the structure? No. Semantic focus on the content structure, while presentational focus on the appearance. That's the correct answer. Which of the following is an example of presentational HTML? Header, nav, article, center. Nav, I guess, because
there are many different semantic HTML elements. You will definitely find one that fits the needs of your project. Great work. Contains a navigation section for illustrations and diagrams. This is an example of a header element that contains a navigation section element. The semantic elements clearly show their purpose within the HTML structure. There are many different semantic HTML elements. You will definitely find one that fits the needs of your project. Great work. Now you know the HTML elements are deprecated, which means that they're examples. The font element is a deprecated element used to set the font size and color of the text. Here's an example of a font element. This example sets the color of the text to blue and the size to a value of 5. The range for the size attribute is from 1 to 7, with 1 being the smallest and 7 being the largest. The default value is 3 if you don't set the value explicitly. This is what you will see in the browser. While this element still works, you should not use it because the font size and color should always be set in CSS, not in HTML.
Yes, that's true.
The center element is another deprecated element that is used to center the content horizontally within its container. Of the center text and a element is centered horizontally. This is another deprecated presentational HTML element that makes the enclosed text one level bigger than its surrounding text. Here we have an example that defines a paragraph with 2 parts. The first part has normal sized text, while the second part, enclosed within the big element, will be displayed in a larger font size. This is what you would see in the browser. The text within the big element looks larger compared to the surrounding text. However, remember that font size should always be set with CSS, so you should not use this element in modern HTML. These were examples of presentational HTML elements, but all of them are deprecated and no longer recommended. So what should you use instead? Let's see. Semantic HTML is now the recommended practice. It describes the content of the elements, so it's much easier to read, understand, and maintain. Search engines can easily understand your website when you use semantic HTML. It's also helpful for accessibility purposes because screen readers need semantic information to describe what's on the web page. Examples of semantic HTML elements include the header element for defining the header of the document or section, the navigation section element, nav, for sections with navigation links, the section element for grouping related information, the figure element for illustrations and diagrams. This is an example of a header element that contains a navigation section element. The semantic elements clearly show their purpose within the HTML structure. There are many different semantic HTML elements.
Okay, so from here we can say that if you want an example of a presentational HTML element, then we can say header is not a presentational element. Nav is actually article, or center is actually the presentational element, I think. Which of the following is an example of semantic HTML element? Nav is actually a semantic HTML element which represents the navigation section. Let's check everything is correct. Let's go. When should you use the emphasis element over the idiomatic text element? Okay, this is.
When should you use the emphasis element over the idiomatic text element? These elements are very closely related to the concepts of presentational and semantic HTML. The idiomatic text element, I, was originally used for presentational purposes to display the text in italics. But now it is frequently used for highlighting alternative voice or mood, idiomatic terms from another language, technical terms, and thoughts. Here is an example from the official HTML spec using the I element to show an idiomatic phrase in French. The lang attribute inside the OpenI tag is used to specify the language of the content. In this case, the language would be French. Here's what the example looks like displayed in the browser. The I element does not indicate if the text is important or not. It only shows that it's somehow different from the surrounding text. If you do need to emphasize the importance of the text, you can use a similar semantic element called the emphasis element, M. This is usually recommended if you need to provide more context. You should use this element for parts of the text that require a special emphasis compared to surrounding text. It's usually limited to only a few words because it can alter the meaning of the sentence. This is an example of the emphasis element within a paragraph. You can see the sentence, "Never give up on your dreams." Notice that the word "your" will be emphasized because it's inside this element. This is what you will see in the browser, exactly what you anticipated. The word "your" is italicized to tell readers that this is an important word in the sentence. Even if it looks the same when the text was inside the idiomatic text element, the semantic emphasis element conveys its meaning and importance behind the scenes. It's important to know that these elements should not be used for presentational purposes only. If you need to display the text in italics, but the text doesn't have a special purpose, style, or meaning in the paragraph, you should use CSS instead.
Okay. So the emphasis element and the idiomatic text element are basically doing the same task. It basically convert the text into its like italic form, tilted form, what we can say. It italicize the text. Let's see. Which HTML element is used to differentiate text from its surrounding content without conveying specific importance? I. How should you use CSS instead of when should you use CSS instead of I or M elements? When the text has a special purpose or meaning in the paragraph, when you want to display text in italic for presentation purposes, when the text is an idiomatic expression, when the text needs to be emphasized for importance. Everything looks correct. The first option is also correct, maybe, when the text has a special purpose or meaning in the paragraph. And the fourth option looks correct as well, when the text needs to be emphasized for an importance. Okay, what is the primary difference between I and M? Primary difference. There is no difference, both of them emphasize text. The I indicates that the text differs from the surrounding text, while M emphasizes the important text. I is for emphasis, while M is for styling. Both emphasize text in a way, but M conveys more importance. Nah, there is no difference. There is a difference. Okay, then this is the correct answer for this, and this is the correct answer for that. Check. This is not correct answer. When you use, should you use CSS for I or M elements? When you want to display the text in italics for presentation purposes, then this is the correct answer maybe. No. Okay, that was weird.
When should you use the strong element over the bring attention to element?
This is also an element.
The bring attention to element B is commonly used to highlight keywords in summaries or product names in reviews. Usually browsers display this text in boldface. Here's an example using the B element to highlight product names in this review.
Okay. I see.
Like you can see, the browser renders these parts of the text as bold text.
Yeah.
This visual emphasis will draw readers' attention to the product names. If you need to emphasize the importance of the text, you should use the strong element instead of the B element. Strong is a semantic HTML element that emphasizes text that is crucial or urgent.
Okay.
This is an example where the strong element is used to label a very important warning about the potential allergic reactions that customers may have to a product. The strong element example, this or urgent text, semantic HTML element that emphasizes text that is crucial or urgent. This is an example where the strong element is used to label a very important warning about the potential allergic reactions that customers may have to a product. The strong element communicates that sense of urgency. Visually, both are very similar because they are both rendered as bold by default, but their meanings are quite different. While the bring attention to element only draws attention to the text without indicating the higher level of importance, the strong element does more than that. It conveys a sense of importance or urgency. This is their main difference. To choose between them, consider the purpose of the text and its importance within the surrounding content.
Okay, that's pretty easy. Which HTML element is used to draw attention to a specific, conveying the specific importance? That's the B, bring attention to element. Which HTML is used to indicate the importance of urgency? The strong. The primary difference between them is B is for the visual emphasis, strong is for styling, B is for no. They are both. This is the correct answer. %38. What are description lists and when should you use them?
What are description lists and when should you use them? Description lists are perfect for presenting terms and definitions in an organized and easy to read format.
Description lists are perfect for presenting terms and definitions in an organized and easy to read format. Okay.
Like in a glossary or real dictionary, where you can find words with their corresponding definitions. This is an example of a description list in HTML with two terms and their corresponding details. In this case, the terms are the acronyms HTML and CSS, and the details are their expansions.
Okay.
The details could also be definitions or other information related to the terms. You will need 3 HTML elements to define a description list. First, the description list element, DL, which is the container for the entire list. You can see it here around all the other elements of the description list. Then one description term element, DT, for each term. In this case, the description list has 2 terms, HTML and CSS. So it has 2 of these elements. And finally, after each term, you will find a description details element, DD, for the description or details associated with that term. In this example, they are hypertext markup language and cascading style sheets. This is what you will see in the browser. Each term is followed by its corresponding description. By default, the descriptions are slightly more indented towards the right to distinguish them visually. But description lists are not limited to only terms and definitions. They are much more versatile than that. Here we have a recipe with 2 ingredients. The entire description list is within a description list element. The first ingredient, flour, is within a description term element. Then you can see how much of this ingredient you will need, 2 cups. This is within a description details element directly after its corresponding ingredient. And the same structure is repeated for sugar. In this case, the recipe has only 2 ingredients. But if there were more, the same structure could be repeated throughout the description list. This is what you will see in the browser. The ingredients are aligned to the left, while the measurements are indented to separate them visually. Other use cases for description lists include product specifications, frequently asked questions, contact information, and metadata. Essentially, when you have 2 related pieces of information in a key value pair format, where one acts as a label, the key, and the other acts as additional related information, the value, you can use a description list.
That's really good definition. which HTML tag is used to define entire description list. So DL, which HTML tag is used to represent a term description in a what term? So DT, description term. Provide the details. So DD is the default details. 46%.
How do block and inline quotes work in HTML? In HTML, quoted elements are used to distinguish quoted text from the surrounding content. This gives the quoted text a format that is easy to identify. You should use the block quotation element for representing a section quoted from another source. It's mainly used for extended quotations. If the source of the quote has an address, you can cite it with the cite attribute. The value of this attribute should be a valid URL. This is an example of a quote within a block quotation element. This element has a cite attribute. The value of the cite attribute is the URL of the source. While this attribute doesn't change the presentation of the block quote, it's very helpful for giving screen readers and search engines more information about the quote. This is what you'll see in the browser. The text is slightly indented. If you want to start and end the block quote with quotation marks, you may need to write them explicitly within the text. You can write the text directly within the block quotation element, like I just did, or wrap it within one or more paragraph elements. This is helpful when the text has multiple paragraphs, but you want to keep them within the same block quote. Here's an example with 4 paragraphs. All the paragraphs are contained within the same block quotation element, so they are part of the same quotation. You can see that the element has a cite attribute with the URL of the source. This is what you'll see in the browser. The 4 paragraphs are aligned relative to each other, but they are indented relative to their container. So far, I have been using the cite attribute to attribute the source of the quotation, but the attribute doesn't really show the source to the user. It only works behind the scenes. If you want to attribute the source visually, you can add a citation element, cite, outside of the block quotation element. This is different from the cite attribute. The citation element is an HTML element that you can use to mark up the title of a referenced creative work, like a book, article, song, film, website, or research paper. Here's an example. The block quotation element contains quoted text. Below the element, you can see a paragraph element with the name of the author, followed by a citation element. The citation element contains the title of the book where the quotation came from. If you go to the browser, now the source will be clearly visible. Here you can see the quote comes from a book written by Quincy Larson. The title of this book is How to Learn to Code and Get a Developer Job. You should use block quotes like these for long quotations from other sources. But sometimes you will only need to quote a few words within a larger paragraph. That's exactly what the inline quotation element is for. It's for short inline quotations from other sources. Most modern browsers will add quotation marks around the inline quote automatically when you use this element. This is an example. You can see a paragraph element that contains text. Part of the text is an inline quote because it's within the inline quotation element. You can also add a cite attribute to attribute the source. This works exactly the same as it did with the block quotation element. There won't be any visual changes, but it will give screen readers and search engines more information about the quote. This is what you will see in the browser. The quoted text is part of the paragraph and it's surrounded by quotation marks. Most modern browsers will add these quotation marks automatically. What's the difference between block quotes and inline quotes? You should use block quotes for extended quotations from other sources and inline quotes for short quotations from other sources that should be part of existing paragraphs.
Okay, that tells a lot. Which HTML element is used for displaying extended quotations from other sources? uh, quote, block quote. For extended quotations, we use block quote. What is the purpose of cite element? To display the inline quotation, to specify the source URL of quotation. True. Which HTML attribute is used to specify the source quotation inline? Inline, we can use cite for inline. Check. What is the purpose of cite element? The display inline quotation, to mark up the title of the reference creative work, to display extended quotations, to specify the source of the quotation. No. Incorrect. This is correct. Block quote. This is also correct. To display the inline quotations. Yeah. To display the inline quotation. No. To mark up the title of referenced creative work. Let's try this. Okay, let's go ahead. I don't think these quotations will help a lot, but
How do you display
it's good to have
abbreviations
knowledge
and
about them.
acronyms in HTML? An abbreviation is a shortened form of a word. For example, DR followed by a period is an abbreviation for the word doctor. An acronym is a word formed from the initial letters of a phrase, with each letter representing the first letter of a word in that phrase. HTML is an example of an acronym. It stands for Hypertext Markup Language. By taking the first letters of each word, H, T, M, and L, you get the acronym HTML. They are both very helpful for writing more concise text, especially when they are well known and easy to understand in a given context. If you need to display abbreviations and acronyms in HTML, the abbreviation element is exactly what you are looking for. You should always explain their full meaning when you use them for the first time. Then you can use the abbreviation element to highlight them and provide more details. Here's an example where you can see a paragraph with the sentence HTML is the foundation of the web. The acronym HTML is within an abbreviation element.
Yes.
This is what you would see in the browser. Nothing
Okay.
has really changed. It still looks like normal text. The abbreviation element is providing helpful context behind the scenes, but users will still see the acronym as normal text. If you want to help users understand what this acronym means, you can show its full form with the title attribute. The title attribute is optional, but if you decide to include it, it must be a human-readable description of the abbreviation or acronym. Let's take the same example as before, but add the title attribute. It will be Hypertext
Okay, so
Markup
like this.
Language, the expanded form of the acronym. Usually the style of the abbreviation element will change when you add this attribute. The specific style will depend on the browser. Some browsers may display a dotted underline, while others may convert the contents to small caps or even assign certain default styles. Here you can see the HTML example with a dotted underline. When the user hovers over the acronym with the mouse, the full form is displayed as a tooltip.
Okay.
While you don't necessarily need to use the abbreviation element for every abbreviation or acronym on your web page, it's recommended for those that might be unclear and those that might need additional context.
Okay.
You should use your best judgment to find the right balance between information and presentation to avoid cluttering the text while being clear and concise.
Okay. Which HTML element is used to indicate an abbreviation acronym? Of course, that's ABBBR. ABBBR. What was that? Let me see.
HTML is the foundation of the
ABBR, yeah. ABBR. What is the primary purpose of ABBR element? To indicate an abbreviation or acronym and provide additional information is the correct answer. What is what attribute can be used within the ADVR element to provide the full form of an acronym or abbreviation? Title is the correct answer. Let's hop on to how to display addresses in the HTML.
How do you display addresses in HTML? The contact address element is used to represent contact information for a section on a web page. The address element is versatile and can be used for business pages, author pages, personal sites, and more. When it comes to building out your website's contact sections, you should use the semantic address element over a generic element like a div. Here is an example of using the address element for a company contact page. In this example, there is the company name, physical address, phone, and email information. For the physical address, the line break element is used to show the division between the street name, city, and country. This is what it looks like rendered on the screen.
Oh, it looks beautiful.
For the phone number, we have an anchor element with the href value set for telephone numbers. The tel:+ value inside the href attribute creates a clickable link to initiate a phone call on certain devices that support that. Here's an example of trying to click the phone number link and have the browser initiate a notification for FaceTime connection. For the email address, another anchor element is used with the href value set to a mail-to link. Mail-to links are used in HTML documents to allow users to open a new email within their preferred email client. Here's an example of clicking on the Mail-to link and having the Mac's default mail application open with a draft email.
Okay.
One of the downsides of using a Mail-to link is that users often perceive it as spam. Unfortunately, a lot of spammers will use this option to send emails to users. So just keep that in mind when you're using it.
Okay, what is the purpose of address element? It is used to represent the contact information for a section or a web page. It is used to set font style. No. It is used to define section for navigation links. No. Of course, it is used for contact information. What is the mail to link used for? It allows user to open a new mail with their preferred email client. What is a downside of the mail to link? Spammers, here of course. These links are a target for spammers to send emails to users. How do you display times and dates in HTML? Now,
How do you display times and
important.
dates in HTML? The time element is used to represent a specific moment in time. Here's an example of using the time element to represent 2000 hours or 8 p.m. in the evening. The datetime attribute is used to translate dates and times in a machine-readable format. This is important because it helps with search engine results and helps the browser process date and time information more effectively. The value for the datetime attribute must be either a valid year, valid month, valid time, local date, global date, or valid duration string. Here's another example of using the time element to represent a particular date. The value for the datetime attribute is in the ISO 8601 format. ISO 601 is an international standard to represent dates and times. The first part of that value is the year, month, and day. The capital T in the value is a separator between the date and time. The 1500 hours would be 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Whenever you need to represent events, publication dates, or appointments, it is best to use the time element.
Okay. What does the datetime attribute in the time element helps with? It creates variable, of course, this is the answer. It translates the date and time into machine readable format. What is the correct format of the datetime attribute? ISO 8601. Date, month, year, hour, minute is the correct answer. Let me see it if I'm not
The
wrong.
1500
Oh,
hours
that's
would be
wrong actually, because year, month, then date.
is a separator between the date and time. The 1500 hours would be 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Whenever you need
Okay, so this is actually the T is the separator now. So year, month, then date, then T is separator for hours, minutes and seconds. What does the capital T is in the ISO date value time represent? The time zone. Separator between date and time is the correct answer. It is just separator. So okay, become a supporter. Remove the interference. Oh my god, help millions of people flying in space. Ask me later. How do you display mathematical equation and chemical formulas in HTML? What?
How do you display mathematical equations and chemical formulas in HTML? The superscript element is used to display a piece of text as a superscript. A superscript is a symbol or letter printed above the normal line of text. Here's an example of using the superscript element to illustrate exponents. In this example, the number 2 is wrapped in subtags to represent the superscript inside the paragraph.
Okay.
This is what the following example looks like rendered on the page. As you can see in the screenshot, the second number 2 is smaller and slightly higher than the first
really great.
number 2. Common use cases for the superscript element would include exponents, superior lettering, and ordinal numbers. Here's an example of using the superscript element for superior lettering. Superior lettering refers to letters written in superscript, usually to indicate abbreviations. The letter G and R are wrapped inside superscript tags to illustrate the abbreviation in this example. This is what the example looks like rendered on the page. It is important to note that the superscript element should only be used for typographical reasons. If you want to style a piece of text with a raised baseline, then you should use CSS instead of the superscript element. To represent chemical equations inside HTML,
Let me see
using
this
example
format.
tags to represent
Paragraph ends 2 sub 2. So this will actually square. Okay. Okay, super. SUP for super. And if you want to add power, so this will display it as power. Okay. So 2's power 2 is 2 squared is 4. And similarly, we can add mgr. So m's power is gr, and all of these are inside a strong element. So all of these are highlighted. So Mosignier is written as mgr.
style a piece of text with a raised baseline, then you should use CSS instead of the superscript element. To represent chemical equations inside HTML, you would use the subscript element. This element uses a subscript which displays a lowered baseline using smaller text.
Oh, okay.
Here's an example of using the subscript element
CO2.
to show the chemical representation for carbon dioxide. The number 2 is wrapped inside subtags to illustrate that the character should be a subscript. Here's what the example looks like rendered on the page. Common use cases for the subscript element include chemical formulas, footnotes, and variable subscripts.
That's really helpful. If you want to represent something as a power of something, we use SUP, and if we want to use it as a chemical formula, then you will use the sub. What is the primary use of superscript HTML? To display mathematical, to display text as a subscript above, superscript above the normal line of the text is the correct answer. Which of these following is the using of correctly? Subscript, superscript. Okay. SUP, SUL, of course this is the correct answer. What should be used instead of superscript element if you want to style a text with a raised baseline for topographical reasons? Raised baseline. ESS? We can't use it with strong or EM. What do you represent computer code in? How do you represent computer code in? Okay, now.
How do you represent computer code in HTML? The inline code element is used to represent short snippets of code inside text. Common use cases for the code element would be for technical articles and documentation pages. Here's an example of using the code element to show a CSS code snippet. In this example, the CSS color property is used to set the text color to blue. By wrapping the code snippet inside code tags, it communicates to the browser that the text is a piece of inline code. Here's what this example looks like rendered on the page. The browser will apply default styles for content inside the code element. The default styling is a mono-spaced font. The code element is meant to represent a single line of code. If you want to represent multiple lines of code, you will need to place a code element inside a pre-formatted text element. The pre-formatted text element is used to represent pre-formatted text. Here's an example of using the pre-formatted text element to show a CSS declaration. When using the pre-element, you will need to be mindful of spacing because it will display exactly as written inside the HTML document. Here is what the example looks like rendered on the page. You will notice that the code is indented several spaces to the right. If you were to change the indentation in the code example, then you will see a difference in indentation on the screen. When it comes to including code examples inside your HTML document, you should use the code element for short inline examples. If you need to display longer code snippets, then you will need to use the pre and code elements.
Pre and code elements. Let me just
Text.
rewind this. The inline code element is used to represent short snippets of code inside the text. So for example, there is a paragraph, and if you want to use this color blue as a CSS, okay,
CSS color property is used to set the text color to blue. By wrapping the code snippet inside code tags, it communicates to the browser that the text is a piece of inline code. Here's what this example looks like rendered on the page. The browser will apply default styles for content inside the code element. The default styling is a mono-spaced font. The code element is meant to represent a single line of code. If you want to represent multiple lines of code, you will need to place a code element inside a pre-formatted text element. The pre-formatted text element is used to represent pre-formatted text. Here's a declaration. When using the pre-element, you will need to be mindful of spacing because it will display exactly as written inside the HTML document. Here is what the example looks like rendered on the page. You will notice that the code is indented several spaces to the right.
Okay, so if you want some code to look like this, which has spaces between them, and it should look exactly like this, then we should use this pre element, and then we should wrap it inside the code element. But here, if you want to just format a
By
single
wrapping the
line of
code
code.
snippet inside code tags, it communicates to the browser that the text is a piece of inline code.
Okay.
Here's what this example looks like. The browser will
But
apply
does it do? Just change the style of the text. I mean font of the text. It doesn't do nothing else. Okay, I guess everything is good. Uh, let's finish it.
Then you will need to use the pre and code elements.
Okay. What is code element used for? It is used to create hyperlink. No, it is used to format text with bold or italic style. It is used to represent short snippets of code inside text. Yeah, this is true. It is used to image. So okay, now I understand. Now I completely understand. So that snippet, that single line was a code. So that's why it was in that format. So generally the code is shown in that format. So because this is a code, so its style is basically, I don't know which style is this, but any code is basically generally displayed in this format, this font style. So if we want to share a code in the HTML, then we have to use that. Okay. What is the pre-formatted text? Pre-formatted text is used to create, no, it is used to represent pre-formatted text. It is used to represent pre-formatted text. What is the default styling of code? Mono-spaced font. Mono-spaced font. I think that's the name of this font. This is actually mono-spaced font. Yeah. 92%. Let's go to the last section.
What are the US and Ruby elements used for, and how do they work? The unarticulated annotation element, or U element for short, is used to represent inline text that has non-textual annotation applied. Here's an example of using the U element to highlight various spelling errors.
Oh.
In the example, the words incorrect, spelling, and issues are misspelled. Here is an example of what this element looks like rendered on the page. The default styling for the U element is a black underline underneath the text. In HTML4, the U element was used for styling purposes, but in HTML5, the U element should only be used to indicate that text has non-textual annotation applied. If you want to style a piece of text with an underline, then you should use CSS instead of HTML. The strike-through element, or S element for short, should be used to represent when text is no longer accurate or relevant. Here's an example of using the S element to show the cancellation of an activity. In this example, the first sentence is crossed out because the hike has been cancelled due to weather reasons.
Okay.
This is what the example looks like rendered on the page.
Oh, I knew that.
The S element should never be used to just show changes to a document. More appropriate elements in that case would be the delete text element and the insert text element. The Ruby element represents small text shown above or below the main text. It is typically used to show the pronunciation of East Asian characters.
Oh.
Here is the Ruby element example from the MDN web docs page. The RP element, or Ruby fallback parentheses element, is used as a fallback for browsers lacking support for displaying Ruby annotations. The RT element, or Ruby text element, is used to indicate text for the Ruby annotation. This text is usually used for pronunciation or translation details in East Asian typography. While the Ruby element can be used for other types of annotations, the most common use case is for East Asian typography.
East Asian typography. Okay, so very specific
the most
use.
Can details in East Asian typography.
So they didn't show how it looks in the web page, but I think I have seen this format. Okay, What is the U element stand used for? Uh, it is used to represent inline text that has no non-textual annotations. Okay. S element is used for represent no longer accurate or relevant. Ruby is used for each station characters for show the pronunciation of each station characters. 100% complete. Okay, everything is completed. Now we can build a cat block page. Oh my god, let's build it. Cat block page. Start the project, bro. Start coding. Okay. Now for step 1, in this workshop you will practice working with semantic HTML by building a blog page directed to Mr. Whiskers, the cat. To begin the project, add this and this element, lang, blah blah blah. Remember that you have learned how to use basic HTML boilerplate like this. I know that. How about I just copy this? Just copy this. Why do I have to use it? Congratulations, you win. That was okay. Inside HTML element, add a head element. So I'm gonna add a head element here. HEAD. Let's do it faster. HEAD. Close. Let's go ahead. Let's inside the head element, that's the meta element, character set, UTF-8. Below the meta element, add a title, Mr. Whiskers. Okay. So here meta, 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 not MATA. Meta element. Character set character set equals to UTF-8, UTF-8, UTF-8 not star. What I'm doing? Okay. After this, I have to add title. So title and this is the title. So I'm just going to copy this, paste it, check. Congratulations. Okay, to prepare creating some actual content, add a body. Yeah, PODY, BADY. I am bad. Why? The fuck I'm doing here? Not baddie. Okay, the header element is used to represent the introductory content like web page navigations and other introductory information. Here is an example of the header. The main title goes here. Inside the body element, add a header element. Okay, just copy this. Why do I have to type all that stuff? Copy. The header will be responsible for displaying main title, image and the page navigation for the blog. Inside the header, add h1 with an example. Okay, so h1 h/h1 is closed. Inside the h1 I have to write welcome to blog page. Now copy this, paste it here. Congratulations, next page. Inside the introductory content, you will want to show an image for Mr. Whiskers. Okay, so below h1 add a figure element. Okay, inside the figure element add an image and source, and below the image. Okay, so I just have to do this. So let me check below. So let's add a figure element, FIGURE, figure. Close the figure, FIGURE. Okay, So I have made a figure. Let's add an ing src equals this and just copy this jpg. Now I have to add an alt also. Alt equals a cat peacefully sleeping. Just copy this. I'm just going to paste it here. Also, I'm going to close it. Now I have to add a fig caption. So add a fig, caption, fig caption. Now I have to close also, figcaption, fig caption. No spelling mistakes here. Inside fig caption, Mr. Whiskers sleeping. Okay, copy this, paste it here. Okay, so now it should work. Yeah, so this is Mr. Whiskers. Oh my god. Now, for your blog, there should be a way for users to navigate to different sections of the page. The nav element is used to provide the navigation links to other sections in the document or other sections in the website. A lot of times you will see nav element is used for menus or tables of content. This is something new, nav. Okay, so below the figure element, add a nav element with a ul element nested in it. Okay, so let's like this. I'm just have to copy this, copy and just paste it here. That is it. So let's see how it looks. This looks like home, about and contact. Really good. Let's go ahead. Now inside each li element you will need to add an anchor element. First anchor element, the text should be about and href. Attribute value should be hashtag about. The hash symbol is in the font of about, represents the ID name which is added later in the project. Okay. Okay, so add an anchor, href equals, inside the href this goes, copy this, then the hash symbol in the font is about to, so it is just gonna be replaced with something else. For the second anchor, I'm just gonna copy this. Okay, I just have to close the anchor as well. So just copy this. I'm just gonna paste it here also, and I'm gonna paste it here also. For the second, href is this, so I'm just gonna copy this. I'm gonna paste it here, and for the third anchor we have this. Okay. Now I have to close the anchor here, and I have to type, this was about, so I'm just gonna type about here, paste, this is about, and here also I have to add an anchor closing tag and anchor closing tag here also. This is for post, so posts, and this is for contact, so contact. Let's see, everything looks good. About is capitalized, so I have to use a capital A instead of small a. Everything looks good. Let's go ahead. Now, now that you are finished with building out the page header, you will need to start the main content. Below the header, add a main element. Okay, so main close close main close. Check. Let's go. The first section of the page will be the about section. The section will be introduced Mr. which will give the user idea of the what is the blog about. Inside your main element, add a section ID with the ID attribute to set about. Okay. Section ID equals about section close section okay. Inside the section element, add a s2 with the text of about. Okay, inside this we have to add h2. Close it, add closer, and we have to add about. Added it. Okay, this is capitalized. So now inside main section we have added a section, and the ID of the section is about as intended, and we have closed it. Everything looks good. Let's submit. Next challenge. Below your h2 element, add a paragraph element with the text hi, this is this. Below the paragraph, okay, so below the h2 element, I have to add a paragraph element. So just quickly do it. Inside the paragraph element, I have to add all this stuff. Copy this. I'm going to paste it here. Okay. Now below the paragraph element, add another paragraph element. Okay. So below this, I'm going to add another of these. Just going to copy this. Copy. I'm going to paste it here, and I'm just going to replace the text with this. So copy this, paste it here. Check the code. Everything looks good. Let's hop on to another one. Okay, so it looks like this. Now that you have added another about section, try clicking on the about link to see the page jump down to that section. Okay, if I do this, then it actually jumps down. Okay, yeah, that's really good because I have added the ID. So about here, in the section here, this is ID about. Okay, and for the about link is actually hashtag about. So this is actually used for the section. So basically, whenever I click on the about, it will jump the page to that section. That's really helpful, and I didn't knew that at all. Okay. The text section in the blog page will be list of posts talking about Mr. Whiskers. Add another section, post, and this. Okay. So I'm just going to copy this. Just going to copy. I'm just going to paste it here, and I'm just going to replace the about here to posts here. I'm just going to copy this. Okay, I did something wrong. Let me copy this, paste it here, and just change the about to posts. So POSTS, and this should be capitalized, posts. And okay, for now on it says just that we don't have to add a paragraphs, but we did. So I'm just going to delete these paragraphs. Copy this, submit. Okay, the article element represents self-contained content on a web page. Self-contained content on a web page. So article, actual example, this. So below h2 element, add an article element. So I'm just going to copy this then, paste. So below the h2, the post element, here we have an article. Okay. So what does this do? It basically represents a contained content on a web page. Check. Okay, h3. Okay. The reason an h3 is used, okay, what is inside article element, add an h3 element and with the text of this. Okay, so inside article element I have to use h3 not h1, so I'm just going to replace the h1 to h3 and just going to change the text to this. So copy this, paste it, and we don't have any paragraph, so yeah, so I'm going to remove the paragraph here. I'm just going to check it again. Everything looks good. This blog post is going to contain a couple of paragraphs with lorem ipsum text. Lorem ipsum is commonly used in web development serve as a placeholder text. It is used when you want to focus on building out basic structure of your web pages and do not have to worry about content just yet. Okay, so okay, okay. So this is basically a placeholder. So we don't have any content right now, so we just use this. Okay. Below the S3, add two paragraphs of lorem ipsum. So just copy this paragraph, copy this, and I'm just gonna paste two of them here. So okay, check the code, pass it, submit. Okay, looks good. Now, for the second blog post, you will need another article element. Inside the article element, add an h3, and below h3 element, add two paragraph of log. So I can just copy this, I guess. Yeah, just copy this, and I'm gonna just paste it here. Check the code. Sorry, don't pass. You should have an h3 element inside the article element. Do we have an h3 element? Okay, the text is basically different, so I'm just gonna copy this and paste it. For the third blog post, you will need to add another article element, s3 and this and 2, of course. So basically the same thing. So I'm just going to add this. Oh, sorry, not this. What did I do here? Article. Did I do something wrong here? Let's reset. Okay. I'm just going to copy this, paste it here, and it says that just change the s3 header to Mr. Whisker's first birthday party. I'm gonna do it and good to go. Step 18. There are multiple steps, so this phase is gonna be a long one, but this is really fun. This is really fun. Okay. Now that we have finished with adding all the blog posts, try clicking on the post link and you should have to jump down on the post section. So if we click on this, I jump down to the post section. That is really good. Last component to add is your main element. Below the main element, add a footer. So after the main element, I have to add a footer. So added footer, submit. Inside the footer, add a section element with an ID set to contact. So inside the section here, uh, element ID set to contact. Okay, so ID here is going to be contact. So contact here. Inside the section element, add two H2 elements. Okay, so here H. So I'm just gonna copy this. I'm gonna paste it here. Yeah. With the text of contact. So this is contact. So I'm just gonna copy, paste, paste. Let's go ahead. Inside the contact section, you will want to show the blog author's contact information. You will use an address element for this. The address element will is used to represent contact information for functional organization. Okay, so here it says that you will use an address element for this. The address element is used to represent the contact information for personal organization. Here is an example. Uh, Physical address. Okay, so address is basically a physical address. We have added a break here, and break element is used to create a line break between the text. So it should be placed inside the contact section. Okay, so inside the contact. So below the contact, so here, and just copy this. I'm gonna add it here maybe. Don't know if it's correct. Yeah, it is correct. Okay. For this step, you will need to add phone number and email addresses for the blog author. Inside the address element, add a paragraph element and text the phone number this. Below the paragraph element, add another paragraph element with the this. Inside the address element. So here we have to add a paragraph element. So I'm just going to add a paragraph element. Paragraph element, yes. And inside the paragraph element with the text of this. So copy this, paste it here. Okay, and below the paragraph element, add another paragraph element. So I'm just going to copy, paste, and text is going to be this one basically. Copy, paste. Everything looks good as it should be. Submit. Okay. To improve your user experience, you will want to enhance the phone number so that the user tap on it to initiate a call. Here is how you can make the phone call clickable. So this is href tell this and this. Okay. So phone number is here. So I need to make it clippable. Wrap the anchor tag. Okay. So here I just gonna copy this. I'm gonna paste it here. I'm just gonna copy this. I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna paste it here. Now let's see how it looks. It looks like this. So yeah. Keep trying. You should wrap this in. Okay. So paragraph, I need to remove paragraph maybe. It doesn't pass. Okay. Nice. Okay. To improve user experience, you will want to have enhanced the phone number so that it have initiate install. Here is how you can make the number clickable. Uh, okay, everything looks. Oh, so I did something wrong here. Just gonna copy this and I'm going to paste it here. Now it should work. No? Okay, maybe I have to add paragraph here. Okay. Should I add paragraph here maybe? And I don't think this. Maybe this is phone. It looks weird. Maybe I have to wrap this inside. Let's reset the lesson first. I think. Yeah. Reset this. So it says that wrap the text this inside anchor. Okay. So this paragraph here. How about I make it anchor here, anchor close here, and inside the anchor I just copy this. I just do a space bar and paste it here, and we have tell here, but we can just copy this and paste it here, and it should work because no. So if I just remove the phone number, no. 555 555 5555. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, now I understand what I'm doing wrong. Just reset this lesson. Now I understand what I'm doing wrong. I just have to copy this. I just have to do paste here, and now I have to do this. So I have to copy this, paste it here. I'm gonna paste it here as well, and I'm gonna remove this. Okay, I think this should work now. No? Okay, if I do this, no? It should work. Let's see if it is. Yeah, it's going as it should be. We have an anchor tag, an href, a tell. We have the number here, we have the number here also, we have a paragraph here. Just let's go for help. uh, okay. I don't know why it is not. It says wrap the text this inside an anchor tag and use tell to make it clickable phone number. I did that. Tell column this. Oh. Now I understand what is the. Now it should pass. Oh, okay. So underscore is not accepted under tell. Okay, that was cumbersome, but at least we have done it. Now we have to make it clickable as well. So similarly, we have to use it like, I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to go here and paste it. I'm going to go just, oh sorry, I have to restart the machine. Okay, so fakeemail.com. Okay, so let's first just copy this. I'm going to paste it here. Now I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it here. And I'm going to paste it here also. I'm going to remove this and it should work. Congratulations. Okay, 100% done. Flat pause 100% done. Now, if we look at this, how it looks. Welcome to Mr. Whisker's blog page. And if we click on about, it will take us to about section. And if we click on post, it will take to post section. And if we click on contacts, it will take us to contact section. This is also clickable, and this is also clickable. Okay, we have done it. We have done it. Submit the challenge. Okay, we have done it. So build a cat blog page is done. It's really good. It is done. Now we have to build an event hub. Then we have semantic HTML review, and a semantic HTML quiz, then forum tables, and this. Okay. So let's stop our live right now. It's already 2.5 hours.